Welcome to Your Cyber Path, the podcast that helps you get your dream cybersecurity job by sharing the secrets of experienced hiring managers and top cybersecurity professionals with you. Now, on to the show.
So, I'd like to shift the conversation a little bit into the certification realm, right? Because a lot of times you're going to be asked questions and you have to answer them because you're choosing A, B, C on an exam, right? Kip, I know you've done a lot of certifications in the past, and I think if you've taken your CISSP or your Security Plus, you've definitely had confidentiality questions, right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, when I took my CISSP examination, it was in 1997, and there was no NA on the end of CIA. So I missed that completely.
Well, you didn't miss any points because they didn't ask any questions on it, right?
That's right. That's right. But it just goes to show things change, right? Things evolve.
Oh, yeah.
We constantly have to up our game because the cyber criminals, cyber soldiers, they're constantly upping their game. So stuff changes, and it's good. It's really, really good that we're doing that. But yeah, I had to learn about CIA, and I had to be tested on it. Now, the tests that I took, right, were there will be people listening to this podcast who will not believe this, but I used a number 2 pencil and a Scantron form, and I sat in a huge room with like 50 other people with our desks 6 feet apart or 3 feet apart, so we couldn't copy each other's pages, and the room had to be absolutely silent.
Yep.
You couldn't leave to go on a break, and we had like 6 hours, and that's how we did it. Of course, today it's totally different, right, Jason? Today I do it on the computer, and it's adaptive, right? So it's a much better experience now.
Yeah. So when I took my CISSP, it was back in 2010. I was actually in the Middle East at the time. So I was in the Kingdom of Bahrain, and we had about 50 of us taking it, similar to you. We had a big conference room that was taken over. Everybody was 3 feet apart. We had the pencil and paper and the Scantron sheets. And the worst part about that is these days when you take it, you find out pretty much immediately. Yes, you passed. No, you didn't.
Right.
Back then, you didn't, right? They had to take those Scantrons and ship them off to the closest grading center, which for us was in the UK. And then about 2 weeks later, you get an email. And all I remember is that if you got an email that had an attachment, it meant you failed because the attachment said, here's your score report and why you didn't pass, right? And then if you didn't get an attachment, that meant you passed because they didn't give you your score. It was just, if you got 700 or more, you passed, and we don't care what the score was. If you got a score, you got an attachment that said what you messed up, and that meant you failed. And so I remember 2 weeks later, I'm sitting there on my BlackBerry. Again, I'm dating myself here. But my BlackBerry rings at 8:00 on a Friday night, and I look at it, and there's that thing that says, "Oh, look, I passed." I'm like, "Great, wonderful. I don't have to ever take that exam again because CISSP is a beast of an exam. I never want to take it again."
Well, yeah, well, good for you because just a few years earlier when I took it, what they would do is they would only grade the tests twice a year. So no matter where in the cycle you took it, they would batch your Scantrons and they would sit until the one of the 2 grading periods. And so I think I had to wait like 3 or 4 months to find out what my test results were. And it came in the mail on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I'm very glad that they've moved to this adaptive testing where you can do it online and you can do it, in a Pearson VUE testing center and get your results right away. It's so much
better.
But anyway, speaking of certifications, really, the reason I wanted to bring this up is if you're studying for a certification, and most of the people in our audience are going to be taking some kind of certification, whether it's Security Plus, CISSP, CEH, Pentest Plus, whatever it is, right?
It's going to show up.
Almost every single exam now is going to have a confidentiality question. I just redid my A+ course for Udemy, and there's questions on security in A+ now, right? And they talk about security in terms of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So when you hear the word confidentiality, if you're taking an exam, I want you to remember a couple of keywords, right? Anytime you hear confidentiality, you should automatically be thinking the answer has something to do with encryption. Right. It may be AES, it may be TLS or SSL, it may be PKI, it might be RSA, it could be asymmetric or symmetric. It doesn't matter. All of that goes into this idea of having confidentiality. And so, if you think about confidentiality, the answer in your mind should be something to do with encryption. Another thing that I see a lot is anytime you see the words data at rest, data in motion, data in use, you should be thinking encryption and confidentiality. And anytime you're thinking about privacy and how would you achieve privacy, you should always be thinking about confidentiality because, again, you're going to be using things like encryption to give you that protection. Things like VPNs and all of that stuff goes into this world of confidentiality. So on the exam, remember these key things because they're going to be the things that will clue you into what the right answer is. For example, if you had a question that said, which of the following ensures confidentiality? Answer is A, AES, B, MD5, C, SHA-256, or D, I don't know, MD right? Which of those is the right answer? Well, it's AES because that's the only encryption one. The other three are all hashing algorithms. And so those don't provide confidentiality. Instead, they provide integrity, which we'll talk about next episode.